Everybody, welcome to the May 25th Regional Council meeting. I'd like to take this time to welcome everybody and acknowledge that this meeting is being held in the traditional territory of the Dene Cree, Danezau people, our friends, our neighbors, our Treaty 8 partners. We recognize our treaty. We recognize the rights within that treaty. We further recognize the contributions and enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda, Council?
I have just a very short one there. I just wanted to discuss agriculture advisory group, the forming of a group.
Is this a report?
No, I just want to ask a question whether or not the council's okay, or if staff can get us rolling on that.
Okay, so we'll put that under new business. 10.1. Okay, any other additions? Staff? Thank you. Is there any comment from the public in the gallery or online on anything on tonight's agenda? Online, is there anybody? No? Nobody in the gallery? Okay, thank you. Adoption of the agenda as amended is in order. Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Roper. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Is Councillor Gerwing online? Deputy Mayor Gerwing? Good. Okay. There are 6 sets of minutes for adoption. There's the proposed budget meeting of April the 20th, 2026, the special regional council meeting of May the 1st, 2026, regional council meeting May the 11th, 2026, special regional council meeting May the 11th, 2026, committee of the whole meeting May the 12th, 2026, and a special regional council meeting of May the 14th, 2026 for adoption. Moved by Councillor Enax. The seconder, Councillor Roper. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of adoption? Are there any opposed? Those are adopted. Any business arising from any of those minutes? Questions, council, staff? Okay, I have 3 proclamations this meeting. Happy to make these proclamations. So the first proclamation is for Accessibility Week, May 31st to June the 6th, 2026. Whereas the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality is committed to fostering an inclusive, accessible, and barrier-free community for all residents and visitors. And whereas the Accessible British Columbia Act requires ongoing efforts to identify, address, and prevent accessibility barriers within our organization and throughout the community. And whereas the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality honors the work of local and regional accessibility committees, playing a vital role in advising and supporting initiatives that promote accessibility and inclusion across public spaces, programs, and services. And whereas Accessibility Week provides an important opportunity to raise awareness, celebrate progress, and renew our commitment to improving physical, programmatic, and social accessibility for people with disabilities. And whereas the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality continues to advance accessibility through projects such as the development of accessible parking, enhanced feedback mechanisms, and inclusive community planning. Now, therefore, I, Rob Fraser, Mayor, proclaim May 31st to June 6, 2026 as Accessibility Week in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality and encourage all citizens, businesses, and organizations to join in recognizing the importance of accessibility and inclusion for everyone. There's somebody here to see that tonight. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The second proclamation tonight is BC Senior Week, June 1st, 2026 to June 7th, 2026. Whereas seniors are valued members of our community whose contributions have helped shape the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality into the vibrant and resilient place it is today. And whereas seniors continue to play a vital role in our social, cultural, and economic life as mentors, volunteers, caregivers, and leaders. And whereas Seniors Week provides an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments, wisdom, and ongoing contributions of older adults in our community. And where it is important to promote respect, inclusion, and support for seniors, ensuring they remain active, engaged, and connected. And whereas communities are strengthened when people of all ages are valued and supported, and when seniors are empowered to live healthy, independent, and fulfilling lives. Now, therefore, I, Rob Fraser, Mayor, do hereby proclaim June 1st to June 7th as Seniors Week in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, and encourage all residents to recognize and celebrate the important role seniors play in our community and to participate in activities and events that honor their contributions. Is there somebody here to receive this? Bonus. Oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's yours.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Tricia.
And the third, but by no means the last, proclamation for Pride Month, June 2026. Whereas the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality proudly celebrates the diversity, dignity, and contributions of the 2S LGBTQ1A+ people, and recognizes that this diversity strengthens and enriches our community. And whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to honor the resilience, history, and achievements of the 2S LGBTQ1A+ community, while raising awareness, fostering acceptance, and encouraging allyship. And whereas the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality calls upon its residents to help build a welcoming, inclusive, and supportive community where people of all orientations and identities can live openly, safely, and with pride. Now, therefore, I, Rob Fraser, Mayor, do hereby proclaim June to be Pride Month in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, and encourage all residents to recognize and celebrate the value of diversity, inclusion, and belonging in our community. Surrounded. Surrounded. Nice.
Put in there, Sheila.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're all more than welcome to stay. Okay, that brings us to reports, bylaws, and policies. Agenda item 8.1, Administrative Report 3226. It's the government transfer program applications greater than 5,000. Staff, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight before you are 3 requests for government transfers funding that were received for the April 30th intake. The April 30th intake is for requests up to 15,000. And in accordance with the policy, fund requests in excess of 5,000 are referred to Council for approval. Additional information on the 3 applications is provided in the summary report. And happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. Councilor, have any questions? Seeing none, what are your wishes? Councilor Roper, please.
I would move the recommendation that the Fort Nelson Hospice Society's request for an operating grant in the amount of $10,397 be approved, and that the Fort Nelson Motocross Club's request for an event grant in the amount of $15,000 be approved, and that the Fort Nelson Hospital and Healthcare Foundation's request for an operating grant in the amount of $10,432 be approved.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councilor, you next. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. 8.2 on the agenda is the Administrative Report 3326, a development permit for the multi-unit building at 4903 Sunset Drive. Rada, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So before you today is the development permit application report for the proposed 23 units affordable housing development located at 4309 Sunset Drive. Council may recall this proposal as the associated development variance permit related to the parking requirements was previously considered and approved by the council. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with the basis to consider and make decision for the development permit application. Basically, development permit areas designated under the official community plan must obtain development permit before the site is developed. And it has to be approved by the council through resolution. Staff has reviewed the proposal against the applicable official community plan policies, zoning bylaw regulations, and development permit area guidelines. The report outlines the evaluation of the proposed development with respect to building form, landscaping, parking, vehicle circulation. Pedestrian circulation related information was received after the report was drafted. But we did get information from the applicant that they are willing to connect the pedestrian connectivity with the sidewalk along the 49th Street and the Sunset Drive on the opposite sides. Overall, the proposal is consistent with the intent of the official community plan with respect to the housing diversity, affordability, and compact development within the serviced area. The proposed development also complies with the zoning regulations, with the exception of parking requirements, which has already been addressed through the development variance permit previously approved. In conclusion, the proposal generally meets the intent of the development permit area guidelines. So the next step would be, following the approval of the development permit, would be to issue the building permit, and the construction is supposed to be commenced in sometime in July, based on the information provided to us.
Good, thank you for that report. The report is well done and clear as well, so thank you for that. Questions? Ms. Anticaria? No? Okay, what are council's wishes? Council Roper, please.
I would move the recommendation that the development permit application DP-2601 be approved for a multi-unit affordable apartment development located at 4903 Sunset Drive, legally described as Lot 45, District Lot 1535, Peace River District Plan 8092.
Thank you. Councillor Souls? Second by Councillor Souls. Is there any discussion? I'm really glad this is moving forward, and I think they're ready to get going on it. So I think it'll be an improvement on the street, and we'll add some houses for the community. So yeah, I'm happy about that. All right, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. That brings us to 8.3 on the agenda, the administration report 3426, development permit for a roof replacement 5407 50th Street South.
And it's me again.
Okay.
Similar to the previous report, this is also associated with the development permit application for the roof replacement at 5407 50th Avenue South. This is one of the minor development permit application. However, because of the legislative requirements, we have to go through the council to get the approval. So this report is brought to council for consideration. Staff evaluated the proposal against the development permit area guidelines, and it's satisfactory to the staff. The staff did not find any contraventions associated with the official community plan or the development permit area guidelines in the zoning bylaw. So staff recommend the approval of this application as well.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments?
It's going to be so cool to see that place with a pointed roof on it. And it's I celebrated seeing this. When I saw this on the agenda, I thought, is that ever interesting and good? Because when you drive by and you see Louis out sweeping the front walk, he's been doing that for more years than I can remember. And I've been here a very long time. That is a very, very long living business and it's still being invested in. Isn't that awesome?
Was there a cost to doing this development permit? Like, did he have to pay some money? Can we put it up 10%? Because every time I go in a Louis store, I'm sure everything goes up by 10%.
Only for
Okay.
you, Mayor, only for you.
Only for me. That's what I'm saying. It's been like that my whole life. All right. What are council's wishes? Councilor Andrews.
Like to motion that the development permit application DP 2602 be approved for a roof replacement at 5407 50th Avenue South, legally described as Lot 2, District Lot 1585, Peace River District Plan 9309, except Plan 23757.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Andrews, second by Councilor Elax. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, 8.4 on the agenda is Administrative Report 3526, which is the Downtown Identity and Signage Plan. 3. Welcome, Krista.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this plan comes to you today to provide the final Fort Nelson downtown identity and signage plan for your review and potentially for receiving, with acknowledging that future projects would be coming forward to council through a budget process or other means for council's review. The plan itself provides a long-term vision and conceptual framework to help guide future downtown revitalization, placemaking, and public realm improvements. And then within the report, we've also included a bunch of potential next steps that we as staff have identified for beginning with. So continuing ongoing dialogue with our Indigenous neighbors that we anticipate just being a continual effort to continue with language identification or cultural aspects that can continue to be incorporated, incorporating into guidelines, into bylaws and programs where is appropriate. Doing a rollout to our community. So that's one where if council has any specific feedback, guidance, or ways that you would like to be involved, I'll open that up for discussion in a second. The NRM corporate brand was also identified as something to discuss with council and whether or not council would like to see that looked at now that we also have this new kind of downtown identity, whether or not we should be looking at the broader NRM to allow that to more seamlessly blend across our marketing efforts and region. And then we also identified some quick wins, which we anticipate being gathering some additional information and some pricing on to see which ones might be able to explore in the immediate or short term. So kind of couple questions that I threw out there for council for discussion.
Thank you. Council have any comments or questions? Councilor Andrews.
You mentioned about broadening it out, and I just kind of assumed with how good it all looked that we were doing that anyways. Right? I think we should definitely have this implemented throughout the whole Northern Rockies. Like I even like they went through our community and found spots where they already liked our current infrastructure and then just advanced on it. I think it'd be a really easy plan to start with and continue rolling out.
Okay, anybody else? Councilor
Yes,
Sol?
don't wrap the garbage cans with anything that looks like food. It's already. Or even those little animated bears that we have there. Don't put one of them on the garbage can because they'll attract someone.
Okay. Well, I like the rollout idea. You know, I think for sure we need to be thanking all of those folks that were on the committee. I think they did an excellent job. They provided a product. I think that is very good. I hope that it'll be received by the community. Of course, it's just been us and the committee that have really warmed up to this whole plan and the signage downtown, but I think we need to roll it out. I think we need to, start providing some examples, maybe some pop-ups here and there that, we can start putting around the community. I agree with some of the basic ideas in 5 when it comes to the quick wins, wrapping garbage cans, because I think we just have to start getting it out there to see how it will be received generally. I agree that we need to continue our dialogue with the neighbors. They were an integral part of this. We're looking for Indigenous names. We're looking for Indigenous language. We're looking to incorporate because it's a competitive advantage that we have the First Nations living as close and want to participate in sort of getting their culture out there. So I disagree with the brand update right now, though, because the reason is that I'd like to see or get a feel for how the community responds to some of this signage that we put out there, right? As we start wrapping garbage cans and maybe putting some of these murals on some of these fences, we're going to get feedback from folks about what they think about it. We might like the dancing bear, but we might get a lot of folks from the public who don't like the dancing bear. And so before we turn it into a community brand that looks at that brings the whole thing together, I just like to see it start to be incorporated in the community, and then if we get a lot of good feedback, then because it costs a lot of money to change the brand, right? And every piece of letterhead, everything gets changed, every business card. So let's just make sure that the community warms up. My thought, the community warms up to the idea before we roll it out at a brand update. Incorporating it into the bylaws, and sure, if we believe that this is the way this should look, again, though I think probably a bit of a delay before we jump all over it, just to see how people respond. But I do agree that all our bylaws and programs need to include the overall scope of this signage, because I think it's really good. So those are my thoughts, and I guess really what you're looking for is that we accept it, right? This is feedback with respect to what to do next, right? So those are my thoughts. Anybody else? Deputy Mayor Gerwing, have you got some thoughts on the 5 points there?
No, other than I absolutely love all of the graphics. I think I made my pleasure known at the past meeting. I think we should move forward as funds allowed, and would be pleased to make the recommendation. If I can go to my next screen where it actually is, there we go, that the Fort Nelson downtown identity and signage plan be received as presented, and that any future individual projects requiring additional capacity and or budget be brought forward to Regional Council for approval.
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gerwing. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Andrews. Is there any further discussion? You've got some feedback? Okay, good. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks for all the hard work. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 8.5, Administrative Report 3626, Associate Member Insurance for the Toad River Area Club. Anybody want to speak to this? It's pretty straightforward. The report is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so this is essentially just a requirement of adding a member to our insurance policy. So as council knows, we've been working through the process of developing a partner agreement with the Toad River Area Club for the extension of services that they deliver on our behalf in Toad River. And of course, to do that for us, they require insurance. And so they've, the insurance provider that they previously used no longer provides that to not-for-profit organizations. So this seemed like a good fit. And one of the requirements is that we have your resolution to enter into that service provider agreement with them.
Thank you for that. Comments? Seeing none, what are your wishes? Councillor Andrews, please.
Motion that council approves the service provider agreement between the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality and the Toad River Area Club dated May 19th, 2026.
I'll move by Councillor Andrews. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Enox. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, this is paid for by as part of the agreement that we have with them, and it's in the service agreement. Okay, good. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 8.6, Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Zoning Amendment Bylaw, or zoning amendment, sorry, yeah, bylaw number 241, 2025.
Good evening again. So this report before you is associated with the Storefront Cannabis retailer at 5100 50th Avenue North. If council may recall, on November 24th, the bylaw was given first and second reading. Then the public hearing was held on January 26th of 2026. Following that, we received some correspondence and approval from the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. We have confirmation from Fort Nelson First Nation Council being aware of the application and having no any concerns regarding the proposed zoning amendment. We staff have been in communication with Liquid and Cannabis Regulation Branch regarding the processes and such things. So referral was received and response was provided to the LCRB. Following that, we received the suitability assessment letter from them recently. And so we are good to go with the next phase, which would be adoption, third reading and the adoption. I have summarized the public input here because we received two more letter of support later after the public hearing was held. So overall summary includes those as well. In conclusion, the proposed zoning amendment has completed all statutory requirements, including first and second readings, public hearing, and required external agency referrals. There is consistency with the official community plan designation. I do want to note that if this bylaw is adopted, the rest of the process for the cannabis licensing review would go through the provincial regulation. And in addition, approval of this proposed application would preclude any future storefront retail store being located within the 500 meters of the subject property. Council,
Good.
have any questions?
Does council have any questions? Another good report. Thank you. Okay. What are council's wishes? Councilor Roper.
I would move the motion that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Zoning Amendment, 5100 50th Avenue North, site-specific storefront cannabis retailer, bylaw number 241, 2025 be given third reading and be adopted.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Roper. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Andrews. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? That passes. Okay, that brings us to correspondence. There is no correspondence for discussion. There are 3 letters for information. Motion to receive those for information, please. Moved by Councilor Stoll, second by Councilor Enoch. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Those are received. Okay, so that brings us to new business, 10.1. Councilor Souls, your discussion on agriculture, please.
As you're aware, I've been brought a couple of reports just regarding the or talk with staff as well about the elk predation or elk and haystacks and bison and so on. And I've had a couple of farmer friends that have asked me if there's a way of establishing or reestablishing a agriculture advisory committee, which is something lots of we used to actually have one here. And I'm just wondering what the process would be to do that. So I think that I could, in a sense, I see it valuable both for what is going on now with the challenges that we're having, but also looking to the future. If we do start talking about changing some Parker Lake Fire land into farmland, and that it's way better to have an organization that's actually can comment on it from the farming community. So just I'm just looking for feedback from staff, or could you contact me with what I need to do to get the ball rolling, or if that's what happens.
So because it's first time it's been brought up, I hate to put staff on the spot, but
Yeah, exactly. I don't mean to,
Yeah.
I'm looking for feedback on it. I don't want them to actually have to do anything yet.
Yeah. Right.
I'll do some research of my own, I guess.
Yeah. So I would imagine we've got some records if there was an was it, if you recall, was it a committee of council? It was a committee of council. Okay. Okay, and that has a pretty specific process how to go through and establish that in our procedures bylaw.
Yeah.
So that's pretty straightforward. We put a report in front of council. Council decides that they'd like to see that happen, and then we appoint a chair, and then the chair works with staff to put a terms of reference together of what that committee is going to do and how it will do it.
Well, I think too, like just given the, I mean, we've got lots of representation, yourself included, in bringing these things even to the ministers' meetings about the events right now. I think it may be just prudent to just add it into the next budget, the next year's, after this next election year, given that our terms are up in October and so on. I think it would be well to start the next session with an advisory group. I don't think it has to happen tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we'll get staff to start working that together and we'll pull a report back to us and yeah, we can discuss and debate it. I'm interested about the different topics. I mean, some of them are going to overlap with the Northern Rockies roundtable, right? But some of them will be very specific to agriculture. So yeah, I'm interested. Good. Oh, yeah, that's right. What? Yeah, food, that's right. Food production was part of the report that we got from Deloitte. So yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. Okay, are there any council reports? Councilor next, please.
I'll start with May 13th. I attended the TAC meeting. The 14th, I attended the special regional council meeting. And the 19th to the 23rd, I went to Prince George with Mayor Fraser, Theo Barry, Deputy Mayor Lorraine Gerben. And I'd just like to congratulate the NCLGA board that was nominated this year. It was a great conference. And the last person I need to thank is Mayor Simon Yu on washing the 32 tickets that everybody received on day 2 parking at the Civic Center.
That's good that he picked it. And nobody knew that they were supposed to register, even though it was a sign this big on the door.
Hey, we registered. Brenda and I both registered.
Thank you for that report, Councillor. You're next. Deputy Mayor Goering, do you have a report?
I do.
Okay.
Yep. So I attended the NCLGA AGM and May 21st and 22nd. There were approximately 45 resolutions presented with the majority passing. Common themes, of course, included healthcare, roads, rail, and Indigenous relationships with local governments. Speakers included Dr. Daniel Sims, Honorable Brittany Anderson, Minister for State for Local Government and Rural Communities, Trevor Halford, Interim Leader of the Conservative Caucus of BC, Gord Klassen, President of the Northern Medical Programs Trust and the MIA Board Representative, Lara Beckett, the Chair of the Regional District of Fraser Fort George, Simon Yu, Mayor of City of Prince George. So the new board was voted in, and they include Kyle McDonald from the City of Dawson Creek as president, Tony Zabinski from Fort St. John is first vice, and Jesse Wright from the District of Mackenzie is second vice. Interesting, the fee structure was discussed at the AGM. And just to remind all of council that we had written a letter to NCLJ letting them know that we felt that the current fee structure was inequitable to communities with smaller populations. The executive has listened and presented a revised model, which is much simpler. The model presented and subsequently approved for 2027 fees is a flat $500 fee for everyone, and then 50 cents per person based on census data. For the NRM, this means that our fee goes from $6,085 to $2,466. So a considerable reduction of $3,619. And so bringing the fee structure much more in line with the other associations that we belong to. They also presented their updated strategic plan and the breakout sessions that I attended, including recreation and sport in Northern BC, where we discussed how Engage Sport North might work with us to strengthen local delivery systems and build sustainable community-based recreational opportunities for everyone. Followed that by a tourism session where we discussed the economic benefits of tourism, including the benefits of sports tourism, which I found extremely interesting. And they included many examples from the NRM, including the Gotta Go program and the infamous sign project. And then along with Mayor and Councillor Enox and CAO Barry, I attended the meet and greet hosted by Urban Systems. Lots of great networking took place. So yeah, it was a great AGM, and that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any other councillors with reports before I start mine? It's been a busy 2 weeks for me. May the 12th, I went to the 2026 BC EDA Summit, and it was a very good agenda. Started out with the keynote speaker, Kendall Netmaker, keeping moving forward, which is really his life story about, starting out in a family that was fairly poor, getting a bit of a break from a friend's family, and seeing the advantage that it created for him, and how he's built that into a clothing empire, and all of the things that he's been able to accomplish in his life because of that break that he got. And the key message was to keep moving forward. Regardless of your situation, just keep moving forward. Then I attended one of the breakout sessions on shaping regional advantage. Really, it was really about relationships within your region. It was put on by the Economic Trust of the Southern Interior, ETSI, and mainly they were focused on creating their trust and creating some literal trust within the communities that they can go further by working together. And that certainly has been our experience of the Northern Development Initiative Trust. Then I sat through another breakout session that talked about the role of events in communities, vibrancy, and how communities are stepping up to that. This was mainly from some of the larger cities where their downtown cores are starting to empty out. Then they're starting to use some of the vacant spaces, talking to the owners of those buildings about putting little things in those spaces, those storefront spaces that can work, whether it's a little cafe for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and working with the building planning departments of their cities to make that an easy permit, just so that something can happen. It gives that potential new business owner the opportunity to sort of explore the market in that particular area. Plus, it draws people, right, as they see these different things happening. That afternoon, I met with a company that's interested in putting, investing in the community. And so I didn't get an opportunity to do some of the afternoon events on that first day. Second day, we had a keynote speaker, Pierre Cloureau, who was the chief economist for the Business Development Bank. And he had a lot of really, really good things to say about the economy. Just find my notes here. Yeah. This one, I think. Yeah, so he says that things are going to change significantly over the next 5 years. He believes for the better, though it'll be slow. He believes that we'll see a modest to small growth in BC of 1.2%. He's watching that. He's watching the CUSMA negotiations between Mexico and Canada, the impact that the war is having, or the various events around the world it's having on oil prices. He believes that interest rates are going to stabilize in late 26, 27, which will help the economy. Investment will likely stay soft in the meantime. Housing will remain soft because people are just not investing in those homes, and that immigration will be down because of policies across Canada. He believes that there will be some worldwide structural changes that will affect our economy. Obviously, the order of the world, and that the United States is pulling back from being the protector of the seas and the ability for commerce to happen between companies. He believes that the world-based economy is slowly going to start breaking down because of that, and that will be much more regional economic ties, be like a North American free trade group, and then probably European. So that was his basic thought on that. He says we'll continue to see a slower population growth, which has a negative impact on our economies. With immigration being reduced, it'll have a bigger effect. We'll see a net loss of population in Canada, particularly worker-aged residents in Canada. So yeah, he believes artificial intelligence, 97% of small and mid-sized businesses will be using AI in the next 5 years in one way, shape, or form. So that was it was very good. It was good to hear somebody who gets paid to pay attention to these things talk about what the economy is going to be doing. The next one I went to was resident retention and attraction for economic growth. This is a guidebook that's put together by the province of BC, and it talks about retaining people before attracting people, and considering equity across your community. Learn from what other communities are doing, embrace change, and this guidebook that you can get from the province of British Columbia, goes through all of those and good practices that you can use to do that. And the next one I went to was powering community growth. This was put on by BC Hydro. Again, they talked about their 80,000 kilometers of transmission lines, and there's no possible way they can look after them all at once. And what he wasn't talking to me, he was talking generally, but he did talk about the moratorium on the cryptocurrency and that whole AI generating businesses, that they're changing that. It's 10 megawatts or bigger. Going to be a competitive process for data centers and hydrogen electrical allocation. So they are changing their absolute ban to a more of a competitive process for that. Leading through transition was the panel that I sat on, talking mainly about the transition that we're going through. There were other mayors and chiefs there too, talking about their communities, but I was talking about how we're seeing that reduction of resource base in our community, and that we're likely going to be switching from a resource-based economy to a service-based economy, at least for the short and midterm. Talked about our Deloitte report there, and how important it is to have staff who are paying attention to this. I mean, we're so isolated, that our staff really does an awful lot of work for us in this regard. And, I think we just need to get out of their way sometimes and let this stuff happen. Then I went through one that was who does what in the federal government. And this was a discussion around the different agencies, Pacifican, the Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship, and I said innovation, science, economic development. The only one that's got any money is Pacifican. So if you want any money and you want grants, you need to go to Pacifican, because the rest will just put you to Pacifican anyways. They used to be the Business Development Bank of BDC, the Business Development of Canada. That's evolved over time. So Yeah, so that's where the bulk, the one thing though that the woman from Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship, she spoke about the RCIP program that we're a part of, you know, the Rural Communities Immigration Pilot Program, saying that they're seeing it as a success. And of course, we're not the only ones. There's a few others around the country as well, and they're seeing it as a success, and that they're talking about that as they move forward with immigration. They see that involving communities and local governments in that whole process of putting applicants forward is turning out to be good. So hopefully that'll become a path to residency for people, particularly in small communities, because it's you know, one size doesn't fit all when it comes to immigration. Some places there's a need for that, especially if we're going to see the population of Canada at the working age people diminishing over time, right? So who's going to do those jobs unless we have somebody? So that was the majority of what happened at the BC EDA Summit, which was very good and worthwhile. Then I also attended NCLGA, and the only thing that I might say different from the councillors before me was the session that I sat through on agriculture. There was a session there on agriculture, and mainly they were talking about the reduced funding for the Agricultural Land Commission, as well as the amount of agricultural land that's being bought up for non-agricultural purposes by international companies. And they're not, it's not that they're using it for something else, they're just taking out of production. And as long as you don't hurt the land in any way so that it can still be used for agriculture, there's huge tracts of land being taken out of agricultural production for hunting areas. You know, and the one that they talked about was one where it was in the Robs Valley, yeah, where, you know, it's elk mainly and she did say grizzly bears, but apparently there's no grizzly bears in BC, and we don't have a hunting season on them anyways, but yeah, so there was a lot of discussion around the table, and I think what they were looking for was support to try to get with the government and have that changed to some degree. Thank you to Councillor Gerwing for speaking to the motion or the discussion when it came to the fee structure, because it was originally introduced as only a discussion for this year. But Deputy Mayor Gerwing got up there and talked about the impact of it on us. And eventually, one of the executives from NCLGA put a motion on the floor to actually change the fee structure to what they had anticipated. Yeah, and he put it on the floor, and they voted on it, and it passed this year. So, you know, so he said, you know, there's really no reason that the inequities that are happening around the province should go on for another year while we talk about this. It's all, you know, we have a good new plan, and we should go ahead and move it forward. And because I was sitting with the Caribou were against it. They saw that it was because they would see an increase in the Caribou just because of the size of the population that they have. And I was sitting with one of the directors, and he said, you know, this is a ripoff for us. So I just leaned over, and there's a chart in here that talks about who pays what and what they would pay with the reduced. And I said, look at the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. That's $1.50 per person, 3 times what you guys are paying in the Caribou at 50. So this won't, you know, it's how can we make it fair except to make it by population base? They said, if you go through this, you'll see, yeah, we see a reduction, you see an increase, but it's fair. You're still only paying 50 cents per person plus that 500. And he eventually voted for it, where a whole lot of his colleagues voted against it. But thanks to Deputy Mayor Gerwing for putting our best foot forward there. I was thinking, well, this is a debate for next year. But Deputy Mayor Gerwing had said her piece, and sure enough, a motion got put on the floor to go ahead and change it. The morning of the first morning, there was a morning discussion with Northern Health, so I was able to get to that. They're really talking about all the things we're talking about. just trying to change the system so that it's, you know, that it's more economically acceptable to people, that there's services being provided. And they had their strategic plan, and they had some breakout sessions to try to work on their strategic plan. So that's what that morning was all about. That evening at the gala, there was a speaker. His name was Dr. Daniel Sims from UNBC, First Nations fella from Quadachaw. He had a very good discussion about UNDRIP, about DRIPA, and the impacts of the Cowichan decision on private property rights. And you know, he is a believer that private property rights and First Nations rights can coexist. He talked about the difference between a finding of Aboriginal title and an award of Aboriginal title. The award is land is actually transferred, but he believes that in where private land is involved, that the courts will find findings where it says, yes, Aboriginal title existed before the fee simple was sold, but he believes the impact will be that it will set the federal and provincial government up to pay the nations for the fact that they lost that land in the original sales that were happening. So he believes they can coexist, and you know, he made a pretty good argument for that. Okay, I guess the last, there was one resolution that I got up and spoke to. The city of Prince George was putting a rail resolution forward, basically the preservation and revitalization of strategic provincial rail corridor. And they were focused, I didn't have any problem with their resolution, except that it was so focused on their line, the line from North Vancouver, up through Squamish and then up to Prince George. They really had focused on that, and the therefore be it resolved reads that the provincial and federal governments be encouraged to consider in establishing new regional authority or ownership structures, including First Nations, to support a transition to short line operator model to strengthen regional enterprise while maintaining the strategic redundancy of the Squamish Caribou rail line. So I mean, and I just asked if we could make an amendment to that, where I basically said maintaining the strategic redundancy of all former BC rail lines, which really it opened it up. They spoke against it. I'd had some discussion with them earlier in the morning, and they say, yeah, no problem, we can do that. And then they came out against it, and I found myself in a debate where I wasn't expecting to be in a debate. It kind of got tangled up a little bit in wordsmithing, because when I put the amendment in, I didn't check it after they wrote it, and they kind of had the province and UBCM and the Fed, they had it kind of mixed up. So we had a little bit of wordsmithing on that, but eventually that went through to expand the scope of the particular resolution to all of the former BC Rail properties. I talked about the agriculture already, and I think that was pretty much it. I did have a discussion, our staff and I had a discussion with Chiro, who is the head of Northern Health. Was during that week or was during the week before? I just can't recall. Anyways, we talked about primary care. We talked about the CT scanner. We talked about the Belteri's house. Northern Health that's the house that's in Dawson Creek that you can go to. They will continue funding them for this year, but that they believe the model is not sustainable. So we're going to have to figure out how to help them make that model sustainable. They think one of the ways of doing that is by using part of it to house temporary Northern Health workers, right? Which will help. Then they'll be able to kill two birds with one stone by helping the Belteri's house and also by finding some space for some of their temporary workers. So that was there. And then finally, on May the 19th, I went to a Northern Hospital Chairs meeting to discuss some of our common lobby efforts. So this is all of the chairs and CEOs of the hospital districts. So the themes that came out of that, legislation, financial sustainability, governance, and common advocacy between all of us to really get that outdated legislation from the 60s on the hospital, how hospitals are funded, changed. There's a poor definition of capital, and funding responsibilities kind of don't make sense in today's world of capital. So, and how are we going to change that? So that's my report. It was a pretty busy couple of weeks. Okay, there's no business outstanding that I could see. Are there any notice of motions? No. Okay, are there any questions from the public in the room? Any online? Okay. Hello, John.
I'm sorry I wasn't here at the start of the meeting to ask where the agenda would be that I could speak. So that's my question. Have I missed that moment?
Yes, you have. You were on the meeting at 5 o'clock.
Got it.
So that probably, John, that probably was a miscommunication between us with respect to the meeting that you were supposed to speak at.
Got it.
We'll make another opportunity.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? We've already completed the closed portion of this meeting. Adjournment is in order. Moved by Councillor Enox. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everybody. The meeting is adjourned.